Welcome to Glow for Hope, sparking conversation on mental health, where we break the silence, build community, and ignite hope. We're here to talk about what really matters: mental health, wellness, and the conversations that help us all feel seen and supported. Every episode will bring real stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you navigate mental wellness and suicide prevention. Because together, we can change the conversation. Let's get started. Welcome to Glow for Hope, sparking conversation on mental health. I'm your host, Kelly Pelker. Every one of us experiences loss. Sometimes it's the loss of a loved one. Sometimes it's the loss of a relationship, a dream, our health, a future we thought we were going to have. Grief touches every life eventually. But what if everything we've been taught about grief isn't quite true? What if healing isn't about moving on, but more about learning how to move forward? Today's guest knows that journey. In 2010, Camille Ellis lost her 18-year-old son, Wes, to suicide. For a long time, she believed she'd never experience happiness again. Today, she helps others rebuild their lives after unimaginable loss, not by forgetting who they loved, but by learning how to carry that love differently. This conversation isn't just about grief, it's about identity, permission, healing, and discovering that even after the worst day of our life, hope can still exist. Camille, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kelly. That was a beautiful introduction.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
So before we talk about loss, I'd like to just kind of, for the benefit of everybody listening, meet Wes. Tell us about him. And I know he was 16,
No, 18.
or
18.
18.
Yeah, that's all right.
So, what made him laugh? What made him unique? Tell
Uh,
us about him.
okay, well, he was extremely unique. I think everybody is, but he was unlike anybody I have ever met in my entire life. He was incredibly angry from the minute he was born. And
Mhm.
then as he developed, so that was that because I'd never seen an angry infant and I didn't really understand how an infant could ever be angry. I was a really good mom. I was very loving, and he had a big brother who was just the perfect, poster child. So I just couldn't really wrap my brain around it. And I was a young mom. So I had to really open my mind to what this little guy needed. And I really took it more on a spiritual level. Like his soul needs something different than anybody I've ever met. So I became a real creative mom with him. And as he developed, it was obvious that he was very intelligent and he was extremely athletic. And he ended up being a really good looking young man. So he was very popular with his guy friends because he was an athlete and he was really good at it. And everybody wanted to be so cool like him. He was so cool. It was crazy. And all the girls loved him because he was really drop dead gorgeous. But he had a dark side, and everybody who knew him met it. And you either couldn't handle him and stayed away, or you loved him and tried to help him. And so his life was very black and white. There was very little gray in his world, but he struggled. And as his mom, I got to witness that more than anybody else, obviously. And I understood him, and it was very concerning.
Mhm.
So we did everything you would do. We took him to therapy, we talked to doctors, counselors, and we got the same answer everywhere we went, that there was nothing wrong with him. He was perfectly normal. But if you have children, you know your children. And
Yes.
I knew damn well there was something wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was, and I wasn't getting any help. So I just kept being creative. So we had a very powerful relationship. He knew there was something wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He was just a child, and anger took over. And then I was his savior in so many ways because I could hold him tight and keep him safe, and also try to bring him to reality. And he never feared losing me. So I was always his pillar of strength,
Mhm.
even though there were times when it felt impossible. And there were lots of those.
So did you ever get to the point where you determined what that source of the anger was, especially from being, yeah, I mean, an infant?
I mean, it's just what I believe. It's not like I have proof. There
Mhm.
was never any proof of what might have been going on inside his head. Um, I'd like to think that he had an identity issue, that he could never figure out exactly who he was. But when he was one, and I was really, really struggling with him. Um, I didn't know how to create joy in his world because he was so angry at one. And my mom's best friend was a psychic. And I said, will you give me a reading on him? I need to know what I can do to help him more. And when she did a reading on him, what she said was interesting. She said, he's a very old soul and he's living his last life and he doesn't want to be here.
Mm.
And I was like, huh, that kind of makes sense.
Hits you like
um,
a ton of bricks, but it makes
yeah.
sense.
And so it helped me deal with him as he grew, just kind of knowing like he's really fighting this existence today. But at the same time, he would say things to me when he was a little boy, like, Mom, do you remember when I was an old man? And I'd say, no, I don't remember that. And he goes, yeah, Mom, I was an old man and I walked with a cane. And I said, oh, I don't think I was there for that. And he'd insist I was there. And he would tell me this story, right? Another one was, do you remember when I was a cop? And I said, no, I don't remember that. And I just let him talk. He was probably about 4 years old. And and he said, yeah, I was a cop and there was a bank robbery going on. And I was behind the cop car door and I was going to shoot the robber and he shot me and I died.
Oh, wow.
And it was just kind and I again would say, oh, I don't think I was there. And he'd insist, yes, you were, Mom, you were there.
So do you believe in reincarnation?
Kind of. I mean, how does
Did you before?
a little bit. I mean, why not? It was a possibility. I don't
Hmm.
really have limits in my life. It's like anything's possible. How do we know?
Right.
But and so for him to say that to me was just more fascinating and interesting. I just got more curious with him.
Hmm.
But that kind of faded away as he got older, of course, as most things do. But he continued to be incredibly talented with his sports, and he was very intelligent with his schooling, but he was still very troubled. He started running away at the age of 3, crazy stuff, like
Oh,
he was out of something. And, it's scary when you have a little one trying to run away and you don't know why. But
yeah.
he sucked at it. He failed all the time. But it was kind of, I just found it a little bit entertaining, kind of like, okay, so where are you going? And he always believed there was another home for him. He would just stumble upon it and he'd find it.
That had to just take its toll on you also.
Well, I was scared because he was little. He'd be abducted. Somebody would, steal him or something. And
Right.
finally, when he was 5, I had to do what nobody ever wants to do to their child, and I had to scare him. So I just sat him down and I said, you really have to stop running away. And I said, when you run away, I cannot help you. I don't know where you are. I said, I want to tell you a story of what might happen if you run away. And I said, and that is that a bad guy might find you. And that bad guy is going to hurt you. And you're going to cry for me. And you're going to keep crying for me. And I said, but I can't help you because I don't know where you are. I can't even hear you. I said, and when that bad guy gets tired of you, he's going to kill you. You have to stop running away. So he stopped for about 4 years. And then he started back up again. But it was frightening. And I hated scaring him, but I was like, you can't keep running.
Right.
And so, by the time he was 9 and started running away again, he just basically went to his friend's house. And like most kids, when they run away, he'd come back when he got uncomfortable. And it
Hmm.
wasn't quite as frightening, but it was still equally as concerning. Like, where are you going? What do you think's going to happen?
Right. What are you going to find different there
Yeah.
than you have at home?
And he had a really great stable home. At the time I was married and he had his brother and we had a really comfortable lifestyle. He had all the bells and whistles a kid could have. So it was always interesting. Like, you don't get abused here, you get fed really well.
Hmm.
You get vacations and whatever. So it was really more inside of him than on the outside, and even he knew that. But in the end, as a teenager, it got really rugged and he really struggled. And it was just kind of self sabotaging. He'd do really well in sports until he didn't. And then he just quit the team. Things like that, where you just saw him self sabotaging. Okay, now I don't want to be in school anymore. So he just took adult ed and got his diploma. he just self-sabotaged in ways that he didn't have to, but it created like separation and probably a lot of loneliness in his life, I would imagine. And there
Mhm.
wasn't anything I could do about it. He had enough strength, power, determination, and stubbornness that I had to just offer him security and safety. And I was really glad that at least he's getting his diploma. He knows that's important.
Mhm.
And he was never a drug addict or anything like that, so I was very grateful for that. He just was fighting with himself. So when he took his life, I wasn't really surprised, and that psychic reading from 1 year of age came flashing back to me like, wow, he really didn't want to be here, and he really stuck it out for me for almost 19 years.
Mhm.
And I was utterly grateful that he held on for as long as he did.
Wow. What a story. What a story. And, sometimes when someone dies, especially by suicide, that kind of becomes the first thing people know about them. And so much of what your work does, it reminds people that their loved ones, their life mattered far beyond the way that they died.
Right. And I
So,
li- I like to focus on the life. So
mhm,
because people die, and I always say it doesn't matter who's dying. It could be your pet. The one thing that we absolutely need to understand is we are not in charge, and we don't get to decide when people die. We don't even get to decide when they are born.
right.
Those things happen. It can be whatever your higher power is, it could be magic, it could be a miracle, but we are not in charge of it. So if you can let go with grace and surrender to the fact that a living existence is what it is, that's it. That's just it.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough that I had my son, and I just looked at it like I never planned on it, but I got to witness his entire life, and
Mm,
I'm really thankful.
yeah. That's and that has to have given you a strength that a lot of people can't find when something like this happens.
Well,
And
yeah, grief is going to come in and you're going to be miserable. That's normal. That's grief, right? You're going to see all your losses. And this is so important to feel and just be a witness to. So often we're not a witness to things. We get sucked in and we think that these are actual real facts. And so the things we're thinking are, um, why me? you know, how did this happen? What I should have done differently. We make miserable stories out of the whole thing. And I did it. I did it all.
mhm,
And it's really important to maybe look at those thoughts, maybe answer the questions that come up. Like when I thought, why me? Why do I have to experience this as well? I've already experienced enough hardship and trauma. And this one's really the grand finale. Why
mm,
me?
yeah.
And I
So is
answer,
that kind of like what was going through your head
oh,
in
yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
first those first hours and stuff?
Oh, probably not the first hours. First hours, I was pretty much in shock. And I didn't have a lot of thought other than heartache and worry for my other
Mhm,
son. Um, but about a week later, when I found myself really wallowing in grief, and I heard these thoughts show up, and something about me that everybody should know is I don't pity myself, and I don't like it when I do. I don't like being a victim. So here I was wallowing in grief, like I should, and like everybody will, unless they're numb. And I caught myself, and I really hated it. I despised how selfish I was being. I was having complete selfish thoughts. All of this now was suddenly about me. So why me? I thought. And I asked myself, well, why not me? If not me, who? Who would I give this to instead of me experiencing it? Can I hand it over to you or you or you? And I couldn't hand it to anybody because that would be a horrible thing to do. So if I have to do this, and this was my thought, how do I want to?
mm, yeah. And
And
if
it
that go ahead.
it made me start realizing I could be the mother who lost her son in a way that maybe I never imagined. Maybe it could be more powerful, more loving, give me strength, give me wisdom, give me tools. And then it turned into, wait a minute, why am I making it about me at all? Why can't it be about Wes? Why can't I just look at his life and love it? And his death is part of it. And why can't I let that extend through me, which extends his purpose of living?
Hmm. But at one point, you kind of you were of the belief that you would never be happy again.
I
Do,
did.
do you
That was that
are
was
you
my
happy?
those
Are
were
you
my
happy again?
oh yeah. Yeah, those were my first thoughts. I'm never going to be happy again. I'm never going to truly smile again. And when I had that thought, the first thing that came to my mind was, really? You're never going to smile at a puppy or a baby? And the answer was, well, of course I am. So
Hmm.
then you start realizing you're lying to yourself. You will be happy. And then it went into, if you have grandchildren, will you be happy with your grandchildren? And I knew what a lie that would be, that I would be so happy. And then I decided I'm just going to be happier than I would have ever imagined,
Hmm.
because I know what the opposite is. So I can be just so appreciative of it all. But these are all decisions I made and choices I made and managed myself to be that.
So it's just kind of it, it, it was more the grief talking.
Well, and
Eh,
that's what happens when you're emotional. What happens? You just kind of blurt things out, or you're spinning in your head with sentences, right? When
mhm.
we're in love, we have positive sentences that we want to hold on to. It's always going to be this magical love potion, right? But when we're going through something terrible, whether it's an argument with somebody or a work experience, we have all these negative sentences that we tell ourselves, and it brings us to a more negative place.
Mhm.
Excuse me. So it's really just witnessing what you're saying to yourself so that you can help yourself better. So you can be the better version of you that you want to be.
Yeah. So there, one thing that's interesting because there's especially in the case of
Mm,
suicide, and it's like I should have seen the signs, and was something else that I could have done, and all that. But
mhm, mhm.
I mean, in your situation, it was a little unique because you kind of had all those signs all those years,
Right.
right?
But I think that way about anybody's death, right? And I think with suicide, it's normal for any human to think, I should have done something. I could have done something. And you take on this responsibility and the guilt of how you could have helped somebody. But that takes me right back to, it wouldn't have made a difference. And I had to tell this to my son because he thought he should have done something. And he was actually there when it happened. So he had a lot more pressure on him, and all of his friends. These are all young people who have probably not experienced death. And then it was a peer that they lost. So I just said, Wes didn't want to be here. And if you stopped him, you would have only postponed it. It would have happened later. So when somebody really wants to die or is dying, or like with Wes, he was mentally ill, I just believe that there's not a lot when they're that determined that we're going to do to stop it. I tried for almost 19 years, right? I
Right.
was
Yeah.
always there giving him skills and resources to use for himself. And none of it worked. So I know I did everything I could. But I also truly believe he wasn't meant to live any longer, or he would have.
Hmm.
And I could say that about any ending of any life.
Yep.
We don't have to like it. It is not about liking it. We're not going to like it. We love them. We want to keep them with us forever.
Sure. And especially at such a young age. It's
Right.
seems a little more logical when it's somebody later in life, but
But
um,
that, because somebody later in life, you're already mentally preparing to lose them.
right. Yeah.
Somebody younger or a peer or sometimes even your spouse, you never mentally prepare to lose them. So when
Hmm.
it happens, it's shocking. I
Yeah,
met
and
a
you never want to mentally prepare to lose your child.
No, the only thing you prepare yourself for is it'll be the worst experience ever. I can't even imagine. And that's what I went through. I went, well, I couldn't have imagined this, and now I'm experiencing it.
Hmm.
that was why I was like, why do I have to do this? I
Yeah.
didn't want to do this. Of course I didn't. But
Right.
there, but there I was. And, it's real. I wanted to say, like, I met a woman the other day for the first time. We had this deep conversation, and she lost her son, and she was older, but not her son, her husband, excuse me. And she was a non-spiritual person, so she didn't believe in anything, and she decided she would just be angry.
Mm.
Now compare the difference. And that was fine. I couldn't talk to her. I was like, really? You have nothing? You don't believe in anything outside of yourself? Nope, not one thing. And I was like, wow,
That's hard to break through that.
I just can't imagine it, honestly.
Yeah.
And because I am so spiritual, I find that impossible, right? I'm
Hmm.
like, what about miracles? I said to her. And she goes, oh, that's just a coincidence. And I said, okay, so when you're hanging on for your life, literally hanging on a cliff, hanging on for your life, there's nothing you can do to help yourself. You don't have that thought, dear God, help me. And she goes, no, I just let one die.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Right? Different perspectives. And I was like, okay, well, that must serve her. That just doesn't serve me.
Right. Right. You have to respect the
Yes.
beliefs and everything, but
Right.
it's them when you're like, really? You would rather just die? But
Right.
it's tough to swallow. But I want to hold on as long as I can.
Well, and
But
I like
but
the
in
way,
the same token, I'm a firm believer when your number comes up, your number comes up,
yeah,
and you've served your purpose and
right,
here on earth, and whether we understand it or not,
right.
there is a higher power that did, and it's just hard for those of us left behind.
It's
I also I don't you probably don't know this. I lost my nephew, so my sister lost her son at 19 as well. So
okay. So you're very close to this. You know what this feels like.
mhm,
And I really took it into this. Obviously, I'm here to have this experience because I'm having it, and I am to do what I choose to do with it. I could have chosen to be sad the rest of my life. I could
mhm.
have chosen to be a victim the rest of my life, but that didn't fit with me. That didn't fit in my heart. That was not my way of living. And I knew because I had had to be strong my whole life. I've had to get through so many things, and I have built so much resilience. And my son, both my kids, all the kids I ever helped in my life, counted on me for that. They needed me to be strong. And even during that first week of enormous grief in my household, they were turning to me like, "How do we do this?"
Mhm.
And I didn't really, they weren't giving me space to just grieve and be weak and miserable. I had to be their pillar of strength, which actually helped me be stronger.
Did you ever get to your moments
Oh,
of
yeah. Oh, yeah.
real grief and just let it all go?
Yep. Oh, yeah. About a week later, I had my moment. And that's where I was really observing my thoughts and witnessing the grief, like just really witnessing it. You just feel yourself slipping down this slope of misery, and you're going to land and you're never getting out. And that's where I was. I was going down. I was never going to get out. I couldn't see it. I couldn't imagine smiling. I couldn't imagine being happy. And luckily, I had an enormous toolbox to help myself because I'd already done that. And I just tried using them. Like, what if I try this again? Like, that worked last time. Let me see if that works. And it was almost like every tool I pulled out of my toolbox gave me something stronger to hold on to and climb out.
Mhm.
And then I really wanted to do Byron Katie's work of learning how to love this. How can I love this? And that's when I started looking at my son's life and not mine. I can love him, love his life, love that he was here, love the experience, and be okay with him dying.
Mhm. And I want to talk about how you kind of help people retell their story, but I want to go back a little bit to you keep mentioning these tools in your toolbox.
Yeah.
What what are those tools that you reach
It's
for?
a lot of the times it's a belief in your heart. Like, I always knew I had a purpose in my heart, that I was There was something inside of me that was really powerful.
Mhm.
And I didn't know exactly what it is. And I still think there's more to it that I don't know yet. And I'm still learning. Um, but I'm very centered in that. And I think that's really important for us all to understand who we really are. Um, so that's your first tool. Learn who you are. And then if there's something about that today that you'd like to change, start learning how to change it. What is important to you? Right. So I had to learn what was my top priorities in life of importance. Being loved and loving is my number one, of course, but also taking really good care of myself is number two, because if I don't, then I can't help anybody. Right. So it's
That's
just
very important.
Right. So it's just kind of going through those things like what really sits well in your heart as far as your virtues and who you want to be in this life experience, putting them in order. So when you're really stuck in life, you can go to those and find a way to use them to help you get through whatever your challenge is.
But for someone like, like a mother
Yes.
and even someone probably like yourself, where you just kind of feel like there is nothing more because your purpose in life was your child.
No, my purpose in life is me. I have to serve. And
Mhm.
it's not just one child, it's a whole bunch of people. And so it does, you want to think it's that one child, but then I would be failing my other children. I would
Mhm.
fail my husband. I would fail my dog. I would fail my business. I had all these other things that I was certain I was going to fail at now because I lost my child. But those were not true stories. What we forget is that we get to choose who we want to be. And so I just had to say, what do I want myself to be in grief? How do I want to be? Do I want to be miserable or do I want to be sad and loving? Because they just go side by side. You really can't even
Mhm.
separate them. But a lot of people get so stuck on what they lost, they forgot what they had, right?
Right.
So that's really simple. You just catch yourself. The more you do it, the easier it gets, right? Constantly catch myself, in thinking the miserable thoughts, because that's what naturally happens with our brains. Our brain will just give us the misery and all the negative without offering us the positive. That's what we have to pull out ourselves.
Mhm. And you can, I mean, there are techniques where you can stop the negative thoughts also, even
You
just
can
for a
stop
moment.
'em, but you want to replace them with something that serves you. So, like when I was thinking, I lost my son, that took me down the slippery slope of misery, right? And that's what I was thinking. And so once I said, I had my son instead of I lost my son, I had my son, it softened it just that little bit. And it gave me a gain. And that gain was I had him, I had his life.
Mhm.
And instead of I lost his life. And you can feel the different weight in those two sentences. And it's only the difference of one word. And that's how we can manage how we tell our stories. When I tell people I lost a son, the first thing they say is, I'm so sorry. And they create a story in their head about what that must have been like for me. And I'm like, no, 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 let me stop you right now because I guarantee you it's not that story. But instead, I usually just say, it's okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But saying it's okay isn't even the right answer, but it just softens it for that person in that time.
It makes it better for that person rather
Yes.
than for you necessarily.
Right. Like I could talk about them all day long and I can talk about my journey all day long. At this stage in my life, think people must be bored, but I'm told that that's not true. So,
So what are the you help people retell their story so it fits their heart instead of the fearful story their brain naturally creates, which is kind of what you were just alluding to.
yeah.
And obviously most people have probably never heard it described that way. So what's the difference between the story our brain tells us and the story our heart eventually learns?
Okay. Well, whatever the brain is offering you, I just say take that story and put it in your heart and see if you're comfortable. Does it create a service within you? Whatever that service is. And if it doesn't create a service within you, it's not a very good story. Get rid of it. Change the story. um, like I did by just saying I had my son instead of I lost my son. That fit my heart. Um, you can give yourself permission to heal. Some people don't know how to do that. It's really allowing yourself to heal. You are going to now reinvent yourself because your identity has just changed. And so now it's kind of a reinvention. Like I said, who did I want to be as a mother who lost her child? I had to reinvent myself by creating a vision, and it's still, like it's pretty solid, but it was, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't a sudden storyline that I came up with. I just knew I want to be a very powerful, loving mom who lost her son. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be the mother who lost her son. Oh, poor thing. I didn't want that title. So, I had to figure out how that would work for me. I had a client once, she lost a son to suicide, and we coached. And then her other child took his life as well. And she lost both her children.
Mm,
Yeah.
couldn't
And I
imagine.
had to, I had to coach myself to figure out how I was going to work with her and help her. And what I did that was so helpful to her, for her at that time was, let's go back to the woman you were before you had children. Let's get in touch with her. Who was she? What was her identity? Now let's create a new identity for her. You will always be a mother because she didn't believe she would be because her children were dead. You're always going to be a mother because you are. You had two children and they're no longer with us. Now reinvent yourself as the woman you want to be today after losing two children. And it just opened up her perspective to give herself permission to still have a life and live a beautiful life with her grief, with her loss, and with all her love as a mother.
And it doesn't mean that you're leaving them behind or forgetting them.
Absolutely. You can't.
Yeah.
You absolutely can't. It's like you're never going to get rid of your grief and you don't want to. You
Mhm.
want to be sad when you lose somebody you love. And so you just adapt to it with all the love that existed and still does in your heart.
Yeah. So why do you think grieving people, I mean, it's not even just grieving people, there's so many times that people just cannot give themselves permission to do X, Y, Z. I d how do you
They're they're stuck, right? They're just holding themselves up. And sometimes it only takes, one sentence that I say, and all of a sudden they realize they are allowed permission, and it lightens their load. It softens their life. If I just, whatever I said to that one person, that right, like I said with my last client with the two children, when I said, let's reinvent you as a woman, it opened her up and it softened her. So another client lost her husband to like a sudden heart attack, and she had been cheating on him. And so she was really like upset for multiple reasons. A lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of things were happening for her. And when I gave her permission that she had a lover, 'cause she had a very unhappy marriage, and I just said, why can't that just be okay? You were acting like a human of all things. You needed love and compassion, and you found it in somebody else because you weren't getting it from the person you had hoped to get it from. And then that person just happened to die. Like, why are you judging yourself and shaming yourself? That hurts. You put that in your heart, it hurts like heck. So, you know, once she had permission, it just lightened her up. Like, okay, I'm not carrying that weight anymore. Now I can move forward. Now I can decide how I want to be with all of this.
Mhm. So, how can someone listening today begin giving themselves permission today?
They have to find out what's holding them up. A lot of people can't figure that out. And that's where coaching comes in so well because they'll start talking and I'll start picking it up in the sentences. And then I can bring it to their attention, ask the right questions, find out what it is that's really like ruminating with them and making them feel lousy in some sort of way. And this is where I teach them the tools of it. And it's really good to like write that sentence down. Like I didn't write down I lost my son, but it I said it enough times that I realized it was hurting me.
Mhm.
And I turned it into I had my son, which was also equally true. It has to be a true story. You're not changing the circumstances. You're just telling them in a way that doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah. And sometimes probably what's holding them back and things is not even what they even suspected that it was. Is
Right.
something completely different
Right.
when they get real with themselves.
That's right. And it's so much easier once you do it a few times. You're like, this is so much easier than self torture,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's human nature to feel guilty and shame yourself and think you're not good enough, or that life is miserable or whatever it is, right? I mean, everybody does it. It's
Yeah.
normal, but you have to question it to change it. That's not true. You're perfectly fine. One of the most tender moments I have with almost every client is when I tell them they're perfect, because we're so dang hard on ourselves, right? We're not allowing ourselves to be exactly who we are. We're perfect in all of our imperfections.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's where we're perfect. We're perfectly grieving, however, we're grieving. If you want to change it, let's go. Let's change that way so that it fits better.
But you can't just keep talking about it. You have to take the action
Right. It's an
to
exercise.
make the change.
Just like going on a diet or going to the gym, it's something you're going to keep doing until it becomes a new pattern, because
Yeah.
your old pattern doesn't serve you. It's making you
Mhm.
miserable, right? So when
Right.
you change that pattern, all of a sudden it feels better.
Yeah. And you also talk about allowing emotion to move through the body
Yes.
and how does that work? I think many of us spend years trying not to feel and not to
Right.
feel the grief and all of that and stay busy and outrun it all. But what's the cost of doing that?
It's just noticing it. All emotions are just vibrations in our body, and they move through our body. Sometimes they move slower, sometimes they move faster. Sometimes it's a vibration, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's freezing, right? It's just kind of noticing it and wondering why, like, why did I just feel this? And kind of get curious with it. Notice the emotion, first of all, give it the proper title. A lot of people will say, I'm so angry, when all they really are frustrated, right? So it's right, question it a lot to make sure you're titling your emotion properly. Um, and be with it and see if what you're thinking about it is even a true experience. And I'll give you an example I had last year. I had left my husband of 27 years, and I bought myself a new home, and it was a very difficult divorce for me to end something that went on that for so long that I thought would be for the rest of my life. But I was unhappy for a lot of years and hiding that because I wanted to stay married. So that's a real quick version of why I divorced. So here I was in my new home, sitting in my backyard, and I thought I was lonely and that I didn't have enough friends and nobody ever thought of me. Nobody's ever calling me. And it was just very miserable
Mhm.
thinking, right? Like nobody
It's okay
likes
to have a
me.
little pity party
I'm just
sometimes.
I'm just so lonely, It was, and then I wait a minute. That's not true. I have this friend, that friend. I went through my list of friends, and then I realized that was a pattern that I was thinking, that I had been thinking for a lot of years. I was lonely in my marriage for 27 years. So this is a pattern that kept showing up. And when I realized that, what I was actually experiencing, which is why I left my husband, was I was experiencing peace.
Mhm.
Sitting in my yard, very peaceful, listening to the birds singing in the tree above me. It was so peaceful, and I wasn't used to that. So I decided, when I caught that, I just decided every time I feel lonely now and it shows up and I catch it, because I'm not going to always catch it, I'm going to remember to pick up peace instead, because I like that one better.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's really about serving ourselves. Like, what's going to help us in this moment? It's not about me making you happy or anybody else happy. It's about serving me so I can be the best version of me that I want to be in this life.
Right. So you talk about emotions being a vibration and that you can feel it moving through your body. I mean, what would for someone who's not connected in that way, how would they notice what that vibration is?
Well, they're being really toxic, probably, right? If it's a negative emotion, right? Let's just say you hate your job, and you go through life talking crap about your job, and every week you say, "Thank God it's Friday," because you hated the last 5 days or whatever. Like those are all very negative thoughts that create a negative experience. So when that is happening, you catch yourself like, what is right? And that'll just kind of give you get you a little bit closer to what you want. What is right in this place? Like right now, maybe it's I have a job. I like having a paycheck. And so I'm going to appreciate the paycheck. And every day offers us an opportunity for something. I look forward to every day. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is. And
Mhm.
when people say to me, "Thank God it's Friday," I actually feel sorry for them. Like you just washed your week away. Like it didn't matter. But what good happened? Think
Yeah.
about the conversations you may have had, the experiences that you got to witness, or something. There's something good in every day if we're paying attention. But if all you're looking for is negativity, then that is all you will see. So you get to decide. And when the basically the shit hits the fan, I hope it's okay that I said that.
Yep.
It's really important to see what's right.
I know one thing that are you familiar with Noah St. John and his affirmations?
I am
And he
not familiar with that, but I'm terrible at remembering names and I all kinds of stuff.
one
So
one of the things after I met him and heard him speak one time, and he talked about how it's like your mind can be a Google search engine, and you go looking for all of these. You're gonna find all the stuff that you're looking for
yeah,
because you keep asking for it and looking for it. But if you if you're searching for that, how can I make this work, or how can I get over this, or why can't it it just flips things around, and you find those positive things instead.
exactly. And it's just being observant to what's going on. When you think about life, let's say you go to the zoo and you go and look at all these exotic animals and you accept them exactly how they are. You don't try to change them,
Mhm.
right? What if you observed life in that same way and you accept it exactly how it is without trying to change it? It's an experience
Yeah.
and you can choose what you want to get out of it. But whatever you look for is what you will find.
That it is, and we get stuck in those negative ways so many
Right. So you just start, I
times.
always like when you're really stuck and you just can't seem to break the habit, I say, write it down. Just write it down. Do some journaling, do some crazy journaling. Like talk all the crap you need to talk on paper. Look at it because you're going to notice immediately that it's not as bad as you're writing it out to be. And then you can start questioning it. Is it really true? So right, no, like a parent, our parents frustrate us. That's kind of part of life. I frustrate my children. My parents frustrate me. I want to change them, but I can't change them. So instead of being frustrated, and thankfully my mother's still alive, and I have a very good relationship with her. But does she frustrate me? Oh heck yes. She's so stuck in her patterns, and she can be kind of negative. And I want her to feel better. I want her to feel better. I don't know that she wants to feel better, but I
Mhm.
want her to. So I try to, ask her the questions so that maybe what she thinks is so negative can be a little softer for her experience. And it does soften her. She does see it, which is nice, right? But
Yeah.
I'm not going to change her. She's not going to be any different than exactly who she is.
Right.
And if I want to change her, it's like how many times do you need hit your head up against a brick wall? It doesn't work.
Until it bleeds.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. So instead, I can find it entertaining. Like, oh, there's my mom again. She's, upset about health insurance because it sucks, whatever it is, right? And she gets so caught up in it. And I'm like, yep, 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 mom, that's true. Let's move on. New topic. Come on.
And then you go back the next visit and you have the same exact conversation.
That's right. That's right. But I can love her for it because it's something that's very important to her.
Yes. Yes. very much so. And we kind of, I can speak for myself on that. Sometimes we lose sight of that,
Yes.
and it's hard to, with the other things that we have going on in life, to hide the frustrations and be
Yeah.
thankful they're there, and you still have those moments with them because
Well, and if you reverse it, right? Let's just say, I bet there's a lot about me my mom would love to change. And what
hmm
would I love from my mother the most? To accept me exactly as I am.
yeah.
So can I offer that to her? Right? Same thing. Like my son, I'm sure my son wants to change me a lot. Right?
I know my
He's
kids too.
yeah. And sometimes he tells me, and it's very, I call crunchy in our relationship, where it's like, oh, please don't tell me I'm an idiot again, whatever, I'm not keeping up with technology, duh, I'm not going to, like, whatever. But I can't get frustrated with him because I'm practicing accepting him exactly the way he is.
hmm
And if I can do it, then at least I can be an example, and maybe he can do it too.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So when you're pissed off about something, say that to yourself. It doesn't matter, and see if you can move on.
It's a good thing to say.
Yeah.
Or good exercise to go
Yeah.
through.
Because you're letting go, right? Like it doesn't matter if my son and I just clashed in a conversation. It truly doesn't matter.
hmm
And now
Uh,
you just move on to the next thing. What Something more fun maybe.
right, right. If it's not the end of the world, it's not going to change anything, or there's no blood. It's like when your kids were little. There's no
Yeah.
blood, don't call me.
Right. Right. Let's adapt to life. Who do we want to be? And let's make it fun. Instead of making it hard, let's make it fun.
Yeah,
Grief is sad, but it doesn't have to be hard. It's
very
just
true.
sad. And it's going to be sad. And we want it to be sad. I
And
am
you
not,
can't expect it to not ever be sad again, because there's going to be those days where you are sad.
I think I'm sad every single day of my life because my son died. But
hmm
I'm also extremely happy that he lived. So it's not like it changed. I'm right in the middle, right? I'm making the most out of the situation that I know how to make it in honor of myself and my son.
hmm
Because if I'm going to be miserable, then what does that say about him?
Right. And so what you're saying is, there's so many different ways that we can grieve, and
Yeah.
whether it's the relationships, the divorce, the health, the identity, the loss of a child, or another loved one, that all the same principles apply, and how you can
Absolutely.
reshape your mind to think about it. So what would you say to someone grieving a life they thought they were going to have?
Oh, welcome to the human race.
I love that answer.
You see, we do that with everything. As human, we decide how something's going to work out, right? Whether it's a job or a relationship or even our health, you know, um, we have a program in our mind that we planned and designed ourselves. This is how it's going to be. And children are a great example. We give birth, we have children, we raise them, and they're going to be a certain way, and we're going to make sure of it. And then they are completely different. And we might be devastated. We are usually disappointed. Every time we make a plan like something like that, we find ourselves disappointed some way or another. So we do it to ourselves, and that's where we're not taking responsibility. So I really thought that my son and I were so close that we would never have anything obstacle in between us. But the truth of the matter is, we do. And we're working on it, and I love that, but I would never have imagined it to go this way. And there were moments of heartache and disappointment, but I'm going with what is and trying not to set myself up for disappointment, right? So it's just learning, who do I want to be in the situation. So that can go with grief, that can go with disappointment, that can go with the job. You thought the job was going to take you into retirement, it didn't. Now what? Right? It was only because you thought it would that you're disappointed.
hmm
And
Expectations.
yeah, your thoughts did all of it. I thought my son would grow past his mental illness and live a long life, and he didn't. And I was very, very upset. I was so pissed off that I wasn't going to get to talk to him in his 30s. Oh man, was I mad. Because I thought by the time he's in his 30s, he's going to be balanced out, right? We're going to be able to really talk about this. And the fact that I didn't get to do that really pissed me off.
Now, how'd you get past that?
Well, I laugh at myself, number one, because I created that all by myself. I created that disappointment. But on a spiritual level, I'm so connected to him that I feel like I am having that relationship with him. It's just not in living form, it's in a spiritual form. And like, it's a very interesting connection to have. Maybe I'm a wackadoodle. I don't know, but I believe it is very possible to be spiritually connected to somebody you love. And with my son, I connect with him, as often as I want to. And he is always available. And what's most interesting is that he evolves in my brain and I don't even know it. So he's already 34 years old. He's already, matured. And when I see pictures of him, photos from right before he died, the first thought that goes in my brain is, oh, that was when he was young. That's how I know he's evolving in my brain. It's bizarre. I would have never imagined something like that happening, but it's happening in my subconscious experience. And then it'll show up in my conscious experience like, wow, that's such a trip. But I think if you can feel connected to them, you can bring their energy with you wherever you go.
Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting way to look at it. I think it's all totally possible.
Yeah. And when somebody's like really, really sad, I say to them, sit down with their energy, sit down with their spirit, sit down with whatever you believe in, and have a conversation with them and listen, because you're going to get a message.
Mm-hmm.
And that message is really calming. And my son was always, Mom, it's okay. It's okay, Mom. I'm okay. Be strong, Mom. I love you.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if you've listened to any episodes before we got on today, but I tend to do these rapid fire
Okay. Go.
sessions. So you got to complete these sentences.
Okay.
Grief taught me
Deep love.
healing means
Oh, so many things. That's a really big sentence. Healing means completeness.
all right, you got to expand on that one.
I know. Well, because healing is, I can't just be healthy in my body. I have to be healthy in my mind. And if I'm doing both, then I am complete as one person. And that's me healing and healed. And I will always be healing. So it's a process, and we're always healing until we die, right? Life, we are always growing, and that's part of healing.
Okay. Love never
Love never, love never ends, for sure. Um, love, I want to say offers so much, not a never word, but love never surprises or never disappoints, for sure. So if you can do everything in your life with love, and this is a big one too. One of the exercises I had to learn how to do was love somebody I really disliked. They hurt me a lot, and I had to learn how to love them. And I didn't think that was possible because I considered this person kind of like a sociopath, very evil. And how can you love something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And my way of finding a way to love them was to love the lesson of learning what evil looks like. And it lightened it up a lot for me. And when I say lightened, it's weight. It took the weight off my back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I now know, thank you for showing me. I love you for that. Do I like them? Absolutely, I do not.
The biggest misconception about grief is
That you can't get over it. That you
I
can't
knew you
heal.
were gonna say that. That thought went right through my head.
Uh-huh.
Mm. Hope is
Powerful. Hope is what keeps us going. Hope is drive. Hope is magic. We hope for good health. We hope for long lives. We hope for love. We hope for peace. But we also have to allow it. Like, can we receive it when it comes, just like me in my garden?
Mhm. Yep. Wes would want people to remember.
All of him for sure. But he was kind of a pain in the butt jokester. So I think he would want people to remember him for that because it was funny. It was a pain in the butt, but it was funny.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure people know today? I've got one final question for you, and then but before we do that, share also where people could connect with you.
Okay. I think the biggest thing is give yourself permission to heal, right? I mean, when you're grieving, like your sister and yourself with your nephew, if you could imagine yourself living a full life, a very happy, uh, free life, your soul is free and you just love, you are giving yourself permission to be better because of their existence instead of taking something away from you because they died. Very different.
Mhm.
But you have to give yourself permission. And we are not taught to do this. We are taught to be miserable.
That permission is key.
Yeah.
So I'd like to end with someone who might be listening today. Maybe they lost someone yesterday. Maybe it's been 10 years. Maybe they honestly can't imagine feeling joy ever again. If you could sit beside them, what would you want them to know?
There's nothing wrong with them. And everything is fine. And everything can be better if they let it. But it doesn't work like that. Really, people have to talk. And so when somebody's grieving, what do you do? What do you say? Ask them if they want to talk. Tell me more. Like, tell me more about Wes. Let's talk about Wes. Instead of talking about my loss, let's talk about what my gain. I think that's where the healing comes in. That's why we have memorials and celebrations of life and so forth to remember somebody's existence. We all want to be remembered.
Mhm. I want to have a living celebration.
I love that too. I've known lots of those. I think we should be doing that every day. Let's celebrate every day that we are here. Because of our experiences, we are who we are and we're perfect. And all of our imperfections, it's fine.
Mhm.
And when we screw up, we can laugh at ourselves.
I do that a lot.
Me too. Me too.
Camille, how can people connect with you? I'll make sure it
Well,
gets put in the show notes
oh,
too.
excellent. Very easily. Easiest way is to go to my website, yourcoachcamille.com. And you can reach out to me there. My phone number is all over it. I also have an email you can reach me at, and that's real simple too, yourcoachcamille@gmail.com. And, call me. I offer a 30-minute free consultation for anybody who's struggling to see if I can help them.
Awesome. So one of the things I love most about this conversation, while it began with unimaginable loss, it didn't stay there. It became a conversation about love, resilience, permission, about discovering that grief doesn't ask us to stop loving who we've lost. It
Right.
simply teaches us a different way to carry that love. So thank you for trusting us with Wes's story and for helping so many others discover that healing doesn't mean forgetting.
Right.
It means learning how to live with love in a new way. So
That's
thank
right.
you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. All right, that's another episode of Glow for Hope. Until next time, keep shining. Thank you for joining us on Glow for Hope. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, your mental wellness matters, and you are never alone. For more resources and support, visit glowforhopenfp.org. That's glowforhopenfp.org. Stay connected, stay hopeful, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep shining.
This podcast does not and is not intended to provide medical advice. The information presented on this podcast should not be interpreted or construed in any way as a replacement or substitution for medical advice. It is important that you discuss your condition, treatment options, or any questions that you may have with your doctor or healthcare provider.